Behind the green view of Sumatra land, extending from north to south, the coastline as far as the eyes can see, Bengkulu becomes a home for diverse ethnics and cultures, a home for various biomes. Behind the green view of Sumatra land, extending from north to south, the diversity of Bengkulu makes it unique as the eyes can see anywhere else. Bengkulu becomes a home starting from the establishment of Bengkulu province in 1965. It becomes an obligation to build a state higher education. The diversity of that never tries out, and with the struggle and support of every element, in 1982 it was founded the first state university in Bengkulu. University of Bengkulu, the biggest higher education institution in Bengkulu, has important roles to maintain and to develop all of existing potentials. From the land of Rafflesia, University of Bengkulu produce characterized human resources with initiated progress and competitive spirit. This great ideal of higher education is manifest by the scientific development based on the needs of time. Education facilities are established, ensuring the challenges of rapid development. The quality of educators are continuously being improved because the world must be conquered. Developing education and research is a big mission for us. Encouraging academic activities to produce work with copyright of intellectual property. Implementing service in accordance with the needs of local to international communities, and developing good university management system is an absolute thing for the vision of becoming world-class university. In this millennial era, we understand that education is not just a media to gain knowledge, but also as a container for the formation of human characters. Competitive human wishes to learn and to understand what the world wants. From the classrooms, we prepare the greatest generation. Golden generation with burning competitive spirit. From the classrooms, we develop knowledge to serve the nation and beloved Mother Nature. This university is the estuary for knowledge seekers from various directions, coming from all edges of our country, even from overseas. In this place, we share our ideas with each other, understanding each other, until it is finally created a beautiful harmony in diversity. From here, we create works, we blend creative ideas of each individual into one. Here, we develop every self-potential, free to express ourselves, uniting perception in the difference. For us, it is very important to build a network in order to be connected with each other, so the movement of time can be exceeded along with our vision. For us, college activities means determining a future. The future of Bengkulu and the future of Indonesia. We wish to prepare the best supplies to welcome the new Indonesia, which is strong and independent. Our responsibility as the next generation must be realized. We realize it in the form of community service. From here, we prepare ourselves to face the new world, to build the future, to reach desired dreams, to welcome the expected goals. From for Indonesia, reaching the world. Behind the green view of Sumatra land, extending from north to south, the coastline as far as the eyes can see, Bengkulu becomes a home for diverse ethnics and cultures, a home for various biomes, exotic rare flora. The diversity of Bengkulu makes it unique, cannot be found anywhere else. Starting from the establishment of Bengkulu province in 1968, it becomes an obligation to build a state higher education. With the passion that never dries out and with the struggle and support of every element, in 1982, it was founded the first state university in Bengkulu. University of Bengkulu, the biggest higher education institution in Bengkulu, has important roles to maintain and to develop all of existing potentials. From the land of Rafflesia, University of Bengkulu produce characterized human resources with initiated progress and competitive spirit. This great ideal of higher education is manifest by the scientific development based on the needs of time. Education facilities are established, ensuring the challenges of rapid development. The quality of educators are continuously being improved because the world must be conquered. Developing education and research is a big mission for us. Encouraging academic activities to produce work with copyright of intellectual property. Implementing service in accordance with the needs of local to international communities. And developing good university management system is an absolute thing for the vision of becoming world-class university. In this millennial era, we understand that education is not just a media to gain knowledge, but also as a container for the formation of human characters. Competitive human wishes to learn and to understand what the world wants. From the classrooms, we prepare the greatest generation. Golden generation with burning competitive spirit. From the classrooms, we develop knowledge to serve the nation and beloved Mother Nature. This university is the estuary for knowledge seekers from various directions, coming from all edges of our country, even from overseas. In this place, we share our ideas with each other, understanding each other, until it is finally created a beautiful harmony in diversity. From here, we create works, we blend creative ideas of each individual into one. Here, we develop every self-potential, free to express ourselves, uniting perception in the difference. For us, it is very important to build a network in order to be connected with each other, so the movement of time can be exceeded along with our vision. For us, college activities means determining a future. The future of Bengkulu and the future of Indonesia. Is to prepare the best supplies to welcome the new Indonesia, which is strong and independent. Our responsibility as the next generation must be realized. We realize it in the form of community service. From here, we prepare ourselves to face the new world, to build the future, to reach the desired dreams, to welcome the expected goals. From here, from Bengkulu, for Indonesia, reaching the world.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to International Symposium, Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee, Research and Community Services, University of Bengkulu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah, a very warm welcome from us in University of Bengkulu to all of the participants, and thank you very much for the distinguished keynote speakers that has joined the symposium. I will open this symposium. My name is Nurmelia Sari. I am now Head of Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee, Research and Community Services Center, University of Bengkulu. And we are happy to have you all in this Zoom meeting. I'd like to inform all of you that this symposium will last for about 2 hours, and we will have two keynote speakers, Dr. Sandeep Podar and Fitria Nur Anissa, DBM, PhD. And I'm pleased to tell all of the participants, we are so grateful to have 210 participants that have been registered so far, but I believe there will be more participants joining our event. I'm very proud that so many participants joining from many universities, not only from Indonesia, like all over Indonesia. I have counted about 45 universities join this symposium, and also some government institution like Ministry of Agriculture, Agency for Assessment and Application of Technology, and many more. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much for participating in our event. Uh, I'd like to welcome also Head of Research and Community Services Center, Dr. Heri Suhartoyo. Dr. Heri Suhartoyo will deliver a speech as a welcoming remark for the event. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. First of all, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable keynote speakers, first of all, it is a great pleasure for me to welcome you to this event, especially for Dr. Sandip Podar from Lincoln University College of Malaysia, and also Dr. Fitria Nur Anissa Devi from Pusat Studi Satwa IPB University as a keynote speakers, and all participants, not only from Indonesia as said by committee that all over Indonesia. I take a look and see that from East Nusa Tenggara, from Pekanbaru, from Makassar, South Kalimantan, and so on. And it is a good chance for us to hear and to see what is the recent ethic on animal ethic, and also how to get more quality manuscripts in terms of animal consideration that is now has to be submitted if you want to publish your research on reputable international journal. So that's why this symposium is very interesting, and it is good for us, especially from University of Bengkulu, to have chance and getting more contact with other university and also the community, especially for the Indonesian Animal Laboratory Association, Veterinary Association, that is held in IPB University. And even though we are only on the online meeting, but I think our soul and from the University of Bengkulu and Bengkulu province welcome you all, and hopefully you can visit Bengkulu and University of Bengkulu next time after this pandemic over. So hopefully that this symposium get shed a light about all the needed for animal care, and also have more on preparing manuscript, and then the quality that will be developed and the chance to be accepted to a reputable journal will be gathered. So again, I welcome you all participants and hope that you enjoy this online symposium and have fruitful discussion, and good luck for all. And I ended with Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Heri Suhartoyo, for welcoming our guests to the event. And This is now the time that all of you have been waiting for, the presentation from our two distinguished keynote speakers, Dr. Sandip Podar and Fitria Nur Anissa, DBM, PhD. For the session of the keynote speaker presentation, I will let Dr. Rizky Hadiwibowo to guide the session. Welcome our moderator, Dr. Rizky Hadiwibowo.
Thank you so much, Dr. Numelia Sari. And then, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
And good morning to all the participants and also the audience, both in the Zoom online meeting and also in the YouTube. And the first of all, the Honorable, I want to say to the Head of Research and Community Service Center, to Mr. Heri Suhartoyo, PhD, and also to the Head of Institutional Animal Care and Youth Committee, Dr. Numelia Sari, and also to our great speaker here. Yes, to the Dr. Sandip Podar and also Ms. Fitria Nur Anissa Dewi, PVM and also PhD, and to all of the participants around of the Indonesia, not only in Indonesia, but also from abroad, right? From Thailand, Malaysia, and also from another country, India. Yes, it's mean that they're also very excited participants join in our live symposium, right? Okay, well, it would be a great honor for me to become a moderator in these symposiums today. And also, before all, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Rizky Hadibo, and I'm from the Department of Biology, actually. And also, I'm one of the members also in the Institutional Animal Care and also Youth Committee in University of Bengkulu. And now, before we starting our discussion and also we starting listen to a very excited informations that will be delivered by our keynote speaker. Okay, I will introduce our distinct keynote speaker, the first keynote speaker, Dr. Sandip Podar. And the first topic that he will bring, but before that, I will read the CV or a bio from Dr. Sandip. Okay. Dr. Sandip Podar is one of the senior research director and also executive editor, especially for the publications, member of Board of Studies, Lincoln University College, Malaysia. Has been graduate from University Calcutta in 1990 with honors in geology. Who has obtained postgraduate diploma in dietetics from All Indians Institute of Hygiene and Public Health in 1995. Master of Science in Geology with specialization in biochemical genetics from Diabol Education Institute, 1988. He has completed PhD in geology from Canada Institute of Medical Science on cytotoxicity in 2004. After completing PhD, he pursued postdoctoral research in different projects of hemoglobinopathies and oral cancer mutation. He has published several research papers, filed patents, and organized international conferences. And also, edit books in Malaysian in India. Dr. Sandip is fellow member of Indian Academic Research Association and World Research Association and life member of different associations, including of Indian Science Congress Association. Dr. Sandip is founder assistant secretary of Dr. Tarak Podar Memorial Foundation, Calcutta, India. Okay, well, Dr. Sandip Podar, have you joined with us?
Yes.
Okay, well, please welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. You have been joined in this symposium, Dr. Podar. So, for all of the participants here, Dr. Sandip Podar will deliver a topic related about how to write a good manuscript for publication in a good internal journals. So I think it's a very great information for us to have. So and we will be with you to the discussion and also the lesson that will be delivered by Dr. Poda. Okay, please welcome to our first for our first keynote speaker, Dr. Sandep Poda. To Dr. Sandep, time is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I am audible, na? Thank you, Dr. Rizki, for giving me the welcome address very nicely. And also to Dr. Harry, the head of research of Community Service Center, University of Bengkulu, for the invitation. And also Dr. Nurmil Ashari, for head of the institutional and animal care and use of committee research and community services center, University of Bengkulu, for inviting me to deliver this lecture. So I welcome all the participants who is joined here today with us, and I see that already 129 participant. Can I get the slide sharing option, please?
Yes, please. We will facilitate.
Yes. So thank you also again, madam, for calling me, and I'm thankful to the faculty itself, Ministry of Education and Culture, University of Bengkulu Research and Community Service Center, for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you very much. We are happy to have you, Dr. Sandeep.
Thank you. So just I want to tell that if please, my time is 30 minutes, I think. So if I please 5 minutes before you tell me. My slide is okay, you can see.
Yes, it is clear.
Thank you. So today we are here in the seminar first day, and how to increase publication on animal research and manuscript quality and animal consideration. These are the very needful topic, and we are thinking about this from long before. Even when I was student in school life, previously the research was not like that, animal research itself, and I have passed with zoology itself in the animal. And when I am studying, I'm just giving a story, small story, that animal ethics is very important. We are doing research, but we should be thankful that animal giving the permission to work with them. If the animal don't give permission, then the present scenario is happening like COVID. The virus is not giving permission and they attack us. It is the nature who is controlling. And as Charles Darwin told, that struggle for existence, survival of the fittest, and selection by the nature. So nature will select who will be there. So we are doing research on animals, and today we are going to discuss on how to write a good manuscript for publication in good international journals. So when we are talking about animal research, there are different types of animals. Uh, there is some annotation. Okay. So it is animal means we are doing different types of animals experiment. Like in our college life, I used to cut the scoliodon shark for internal ear. Then we used to dissect the scalotis about the nervous system, cranial nervous system, etc. And nowadays we have transformed. We're not using these animals anymore in the laboratory practicals for bachelor level. Now we change, but these animals still use in different types of research. So there are different types of animals. This is the reptiles. Not only that, we are doing research on turtles or tortoise, which also in endangered species nowadays. Then we are doing research on mice model, albino, Swiss albino mice models, and also we are doing research on monkey. We for the human, before human testing, we do have to do primate testing. So we do test on my monkey and etc. Then we have the fish, and also we do testing on mussels, the molluscas, and we kept them in the laboratory and doing the different types of research, and with properly maintaining, and Dr. Harry just now told that with maintaining the ethical consideration of the animal, that is the most important thing. And we do the research. And then when we are doing this research, we need that you know there's a different types of what do you call it? It is a, you can tell it is a human in vitro analysis, means on the animal, not a human, animal in vitro analysis. So when we in vivo analysis, sorry. So when we are doing in the inside the cell of a living body, it is we cannot revert back. Suppose we are doing testing a vaccine, or we infect a person with a bacteria or virus, then it is not irreversible. The person cannot be, if the medicine fail, the person will die. If the medicine okay, then person will survive. So we have to be very careful that this is not a reversible thing. So when we are doing the research, we should be very considerate, and we have to aware if that work has been done, we have to inform everybody that yes, we have done this work and this is the result. So everybody can learn from that history and not repeat the same experiment or the same animal model or the same mistakes, and the animal will die again. So for this, publication is a very important factor, and publication visibility also very important factor. So there is two factor. Why publication need? Publication need for the sake of our experiment, that what we have done, we have to establish. Even it is failed also, the experiment, we have to publish. That yes, this procedure I have want to do. Suppose in COVID, we have to do a testing of hydroxychloroquine drug, and it is failed. Nigeria have, means South Africa or Nigeria have been confirmed. Then who have to? WHO have to stop the testing. Like that, in any animal experiment, we are doing LD50, LC50, etc. calculation, etc. lethal dose calculation of different types of pesticides, and then we have to publish it. Then everybody will aware that yes, this pesticide is not, cannot be used again in this dose. So the animal cannot withstand, the animal will die. This medicine cannot work, so we cannot try this medicine again on this animal. So these things we have to be very careful, and for this the publication is necessary, and the visibility of the publication also necessary. We think that publication is necessary for our upliftment in our career, KPI, but it also necessary, yes, for our job. We do the publication, but not for job only. We have to think what we are doing. We have to know that experiment. We have to know the work what we are doing. Then we can publish the data. So for this, we have to, when we submitting the journals or anything, we have to be careful in several points. Just I'm going to discuss this. Preparation before the starting, construction of an article, technical detail, revision, response to the reviewer after submission, then ethical issues. We have to choose that. Suppose one experiment already done, I cannot make the same mistakes. I cannot use the same reagent or something and have kill the animal. Then what? How can our paper can get accepted? Okay. So now, when we do this research or publication, there are many things. What is the problems arise? Suppose from many articles I have seen from submitted from Indonesia in whole world. Now within 2-3 years, Indonesia have a large publication amount in the world database in Scopus, and also in Web of Science. Many persons publishing many articles. So Indonesia have a large number, but there are many concerns are there, like this multiple submission. One person or one person submitting the same article in 3 different journals. Submission of a paper already published in Indonesian language, they translate it and submitting in different language. It is not only in Indonesia, it also in Chinese and also in other language. They do the same things. The Chinese people, Chinese language publish, again translate in Indonesian language or English language and publishing. Same, this is also already published data, again publishing. Plagiarism, then paper out of scope of the journal. Suppose I am publishing a animal research journal, animal research in a nursing journal, or healthcare research in a animal journal. It cannot be possible, acceptable. Then failure to format the paper according to the guidelines to the author, inappropriate or reviewers, inadequate response to reviewer. When the reviewer give comment, we are not giving the proper reviewing feedbacks, and inadequate standard of English. It also need English means grammatical check. Then we need proper revision of the manuscript as per the reviewer comments, resubmission and rejected a manuscript without revision. So when it is rejected, we don't think that it is work is not valuable. We have to know what are the cause that is the rejection, and then we have to revise the article and submit back to that journal or other journal. If we submit the same thing again in another journal, it will same result. So when we get some result, reviewer comments that if it is okay, we think that yes, it is the improvement of the paper, then manuscript, then we should incorporate that thing and submit that one. So my sound is okay, madam and Dr. Rechki?
Yes, it is okay. It is clear.
Okay, thank you. So we have to be considerate about the novelty or originality of the work. So we have to think, have we done the same something new or interesting? Then it is okay. Is there anything challenging in our work? We have to mention. Is the work directly related to current hot topic? Then have we provided the solution to any difficult problems? And if it is solution means we want to try the solution and failed also, that also to be presented. As I told, it is the novelty of the and originality of the work. So then we start the preparation of manuscript. And when you're submitting the manuscript, there are different types of manuscript: self-publication, letters to editor, newspaper writing, literacy journal, magazine, other type of magazine, webzine, books, and also what we mainly know, scholarly journals. But all these are publications also. If I post something in Facebook, that also publication. Immediately I get data, I post in Facebook, that also considered as publication. My work is known to everybody in the social media. Like in the school notice board, we put a memo that yes, today is the seminar. In the university notice board we put, then it is a publication by the university. Then when we go for the book and journal, there is ISBN number and ISSN number. We know these things, and this ISBN number is very important. That it's important means it gives the data where it is published, which country, and which is who the publisher, what is the number of our book. So even the same author name can be published 2-3 book, but it be identified separately by the number of ISBN, or in case of journal or magazines, it is ISSN. Okay, so the digits denotes which country, which area, and how many, that is my book number. Okay, then what are the selection criteria, main criteria for selecting a journal? It should have a ISSN, it should publish timely. That I submit a manuscript, after 1 year it published, after 1 year I get rejected, then my work already have gone to the second phase, another person already worked on it and he also failed, that is not expected. So we have to be very considerate about the publication timeliness of a journal. Then publication ethics, we should be ethical. Then the journals have a peer review committee, also at the editorial board committee, that we can make think and screen in the journal website itself. Accordingly, we choose our journal and submit. Okay, then there is a different types of article. As I told, newspaper article, suppose one news I publish here, it is have a major circulation, millions of people read a newspaper locally, but that newspaper, suppose Indonesian newspaper, cannot be read by the Chinese person, or Chinese person cannot read an Indonesian language newspaper or Malaysian language newspaper. So we have to know that this is a localized the publication, and the readership also varied with different types of age group. So if I tell lethal dose, lethal concentration, this type of term in the newspaper article, the normal people cannot understand. So I have to use the normal terms for them. That I have to mention, yes, the one concentration of the what we call chemical have been used, that there is 100% animal will be died. That is called lethal dose. So that type of thing I have to transfer. That is the use, means modification of my article according to the where I am publishing. Then we can publish meeting abstracts and conference, etc., that I have done something, so I can present research article that which are talking, that we do some experiments and we publish it, review articles. So when we doing some experiment, we have to review first that this work has been done or not, what is the result, then only I can proceed with my present work and the outcome. So when I do the review, I can publish a review article. And after that, when the experiment has been conducted, then I can publish research article. Then I can present it internationally, or meetings and minutes, and then means meetings and abstract book and proceedings. So this flow chart is from down to up in my slide actually. Review article we publish first, then we go for research article, then we publish in the conference and etc. Or we can do conference publication also, and then we can get the feedback, and then we can modify our paper article accordingly and publish the research article. Okay. Then what is the peer review article? We know already that that journal have a peer review policy, and that had been formatted as per the reviewer comment, and then it is published. Popular news article, as I told, it is localized. Now, what is the article? Content is essential. Then content must be clear, useful, and with the scientific message, what I want to tell. Then presentation is very critical also, that it good manuscript have a nice format and etc. So presentation should be clear, that what is I want to say, what is my experiment, I have to clearly mention. Okay, so now when we are going for publishing, there are different parts. First is title, provide as accurate and concise description of the advertise. It is a advertisement actually, the publication of the content of the article as possible. So article will tell that yes, this is the thing, a drug, a vaccine against COVID. So everybody know that it is a vaccine against, everybody will read. They will attract to read. It is advertisement of my article. Then even I can write it inside that is failed. So I can write the vaccination, a COVID vaccine failed. General means use of hydroxychloroquine is failed. So that type of thing is catchy and also attract the reader to read my article. The title must be very important. When you search in Google, etc., title will come first, and the keywords. Then identify the main issue, begin with the subject of the paper, accurate, unambiguous, and specific and objective, complete. Do not contain infrequently used abbreviation and attract the reader. Next is when we go for the name and affiliation, I have seen like this type of thing happen, that we have to mention clearly the first name and last name of the author. Sometimes our only Indonesia, only one name is there. So we have to think that what is the first name, and nicely we have to check the spelling when we submit the article. If it is capital, I have to use capital. If it is small, we have to use small, and we have to clearly mention. Otherwise, it will not come in the Google search or any other search engines. Then we have to indicate our affiliation clearly, where I am working. Then I have to indicate my email ID clearly and WRC ID. So my WRC, mean two different persons, Sandeep Poddar many have 3-4 persons in the world and they are publishing, but my WRC ID will denote it is me, myself, not other person. Okay. Then we go for the abstract preparation. Abstract preparation should be precise, can stand alone, use no technical jargon. Like if I tell, means we have to tell simple language so that everybody can understand the abstract, in brief and specific, and there should not be any reference, etc. in the abstract section. Then we go for the introduction section. It should be include the proper background, that why I am doing this research, whole world or this area have this type of things, or this plant have this type of experiment, or this animal have the effect of this plant like herbal extract on this animal is like this. Then this is the scientific background. We have to tell why I am doing this research, and then what is my objective and what may be the result. I have to completely inform in the means objective and etc. We have to inform in the introduction section. Okay, then comes the methods. There should be ethical sentiment as statement first, as Dr. Harry told, that ethics is the most important. Which animal, how, who is the ethical committee give the approval to work? I cannot kill a monkey for my experiment without any ethical consideration. I can kill fish maybe, because it is still not under the ethical committee clearance, but it is not ethical to I kill the mammals, primates in the experiments. So there are many institute, you can search in the net. The institute have been banned for doing the monkey experiments on primates, for they have given electric shock, etc. So this is not ethical, and that ethical statement should be clearly mentioned in the article in the materials method. Then study design should be there. The number of animal is very in the control and experimental group should be mentioned clearly. I cannot be vague that there is no 6 number or 10 number. I have to clearly mention, yes, we have done it on 10 sample. Then we have a scope of the work, that 10 sample maybe it is not viable, means standard deviation or etc. Statistically it is not viable, so we can do a more fast experiment. For that, number is very important, we have to mention. Then experimental unit, and like I do on a case study, I do only one animal, I may do several animal group studies, etc. So there is a option of experimental unit. This thing we have to clearly mention. Then experimental procedure, how, where, and why, when I conduct the experiment, and what are the chemicals I am using. So these all should be clear. I may use a sigma chemical, I may use a SRL chemical, I may use a Ranbaxy chemical reagent mark. So which reagent, which company, which cache number we are using, we have to clearly mention in the materials method section of the experimental procedure clearly. And what are the experiment, and we have to make the flow chart if possible. Then we have to clearly mention. So what are the things? Experimental animals, housing, how I keep the animal. If there is a 24-hour means photo exposure period, day and light period or not, then it is air conditioned room, means maintaining a total temperature 25 degrees centigrade or not, or with their normal atmospheric temperature. One day it is more, one day it is less. So that housing also we have to clearly mention. What the foods we are giving to the animals, that also we have to mention. If it is pellet diet, we have to mention which company pellet diet we are using. If we are making the diet our custom made, we have to mention. So these all things next researcher will read and understand, yes, this is the things we have to keep in mind before doing my experiment in the next time. Then allocating the animals to experimental groups, then experimental outcome, statistical method, which statistical method we are using, it is statistically viable or not, everything you have to clearly mention. Suppose I cannot do 100 of monkey at a time test, or 100 of pig or anything, big animals we cannot kill, deer or goat, we cannot do 100 of animals. We have to be specific. Suppose 5 only doing, then within that 5, 2, 3 has been died. So there is this statistically viable. The standard deviation will show a very high range of differentiation, but that should be accepted, because we cannot do, we know already that we cannot do it is on 5,000 animals, we have to do only on 5 animals. So standard deviation may be high, but we have to conclude as it is a case study. Okay, then with the results, baseline data should be mentioned, numbers analyzed should be mentioned, outcome and estimation, etc. should be clearly mentioned there. And also the adverse event, if any, we have to clearly mention. Then comes the discussion portion, interpretation of scientific implication, generalizability and translation of the thing, and also have to mention the funding. Who give the fund for the work? Even I am using they don't have given any fund. I am using the university laboratory, animal laboratory house or a lab. So I have to give thankful to the university for giving the opportunity for using the laboratory facility. Like I am thankful to the Bengtu University for giving me the opportunity to speak on this platform. So acknowledgement should be there for funding and to the granting authority and who is giving the permission for them. Then comes another portion, reference. That is very important. Without reference, we called it plagiarized work. If I am doing, I told reference should be there, and reference should have a proper format. It should have author, title, edition, page number, place of publication, publisher, date of publication, and web address if it is online. Sir, how long time I have?
You have about 10 more minutes.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Enough. So I can go slow a little bit. So we have to be organized. Reference should not be haphazard. If I keep some paper in my office, you can see, if I move the camera, you can see here is some paper, here is some paper. It is very haphazard. I cannot find my papers when it is needed. So we have to be very sequentially arranged. All files should be kept nicely, like library or anything where the books kept in nicely with the ISBN number. They kept the books nicely with the Dewey Decimal Classification they use for the library cataloging. Suppose 500 above is science book, 590 is zoology book. So there is a Dewey Decimal Classification, 590 separate rack, 500 separate rack. This room is for 500 science books. It is not that other persons can go in or means no need to go in. So we have to be very organized, and for this there are different softwares we have, and like EndNote, Mendeley, Joreto, these are using, but still we can use manually also. So it should be organized properly, the reference. Then the reference style is different in different types of journal. Every journal have their own style, like APA, MLA, Oxford, Harvard, etc. So there's small difference in these journals, means styles. Suppose when I am citing this APA in the article, inside the article, then it should be yes, like this. It should be like laser 2006, like this. And when APA style, laser 52. In same case, when I'm going for the reference section, I have to mention like this in APA style, laser J 2006. But in MLS style, it should be laser Jonathan, full name, and year at the end, year not in the middle. So there are small difference in each, and which you can see in Mendeley, and in YouTube you can watch the Mendeley, and also in the Mendeley website I can show you if the time permit later on. But you can go through this YouTube, you can search in the net also Mendeley website. It is free software, you can download the Mendeley APA style. You can understand everything is clearly mentioned in the website. Then there are different types of referencing style. I can show you later on. And next, another thing is ethical consideration. If there is we don't mention the reference, it is unethical, because the work already has been done, and I cannot tell that is telling by myself. I'm done by myself. So I have to give authorship, data replication should not be there, originality of the paper should be there, and ethics committee and their requirement issues should be fulfilled for animal research itself. So there are different types of ethical consideration when you publish the paper. Then plagiarism, as I told, without giving the acknowledgement and copying and borrowing other idea is the plagiarism. Means stealing actually. So we cannot steal or pass the others or myself. My data also I cannot copy 3 and 4 line together without giving proper referencing. Okay. Then there are different types of software. If we have to give the proper quotation marks, etc. Otherwise the paper will be rejected easily. First stage is plagiarism checking in the journal. So we have to first clear the plagiarism test. Then if it is plagiarism can be avoided by acknowledging and giving the proper reference and quoting the things, then it is not plagiarized. Then it can be acceptable in the journal. The first stage when you submit, first they do plagiarism check, English checking, that author's name, affiliation, everything is okay. Then it go to reviewer. Then reviewer give comment as per the subject area. Therefore, plagiarism, we have different softwares, as we know, Turnitin, etc. Then what is the unethical behavior? For what the paper is rejected? multiple submission, reluctant publications, already old, plagiarism, data fabrication. I do suppose do 3 tests and then I told it is 30. No, cannot. Or 300. Improper use of human subject, animals in research, means human and animals in research, and improper author contribution. Okay, so author is don't know at all, and his name is there also, unethical behavior. So we have to, another thing is publication author's copyright. I have to transfer the author's right to the journal so that they can edit and etc. So it is also important to transfer the copyright, and also when we copy some figure or anything from the book, we have to give proper reference, and because it is copyrighted, and without that we cannot use. For personally, we can give reference and copy. Then after publication, our visibility is most important. So it is most important that if I don't disseminate the knowledge, so if I cannot disseminate my new knowledge, then it is no use of the publication. So it will be vanish. So we have to disseminate the knowledge, increase the impact of visibility. If I cite, everybody cite my article, my visibility will be increased. Then establish a researcher reputation. I can get a reputation that yes, my work is good. Then otherwise it will be vanished. Nobody know, and my work is unuseful, not useful. Okay, so with this, I should thankful to University Bengaluru and all management committee of the university and organizing this event and giving me this opportunity to share my views. Thank you. Any questions is welcome, madam.
Okay. Thank you so much to the presentations from Dr. Sander Poda. So I think it's a very grateful for us to get so much of the information. We think that because you know that the publications is a must actually for a lecture. It's not only for a lecture, but also for research, and now also students. Have to starting to make a publication, right? And actually, Dr. Poda, you know that in Indonesia especially, I think it's not only in Indonesia, but many cases in the world, I think actually we have already make a data especially to do our research, but I don't know, in somehow we need to more motivation to create, or for example, like to write a good paper. And actually from this information you have been delivered, we didn't know, okay, there's so many things that we have to prepare before we submit a paper, right? So for example, like from the title and then from the contents, method, and many more that we have to concern to submit, or maybe to publish for a good publications, for example. So thank you so much, Dr. Poda. I think this information is very useful for us and all of the participants here from the Zoom and also from YouTube. Maybe they have so many questions, but before that, we try to continue for the second awesome, our keynote speaker, right? To Miss Petria before we have a question and answer session. So
another thing, just trying to say that yes, if we do publication, if we love our work, we should publish it. And if we are means good in our research or bad also, means whatever we are doing, we have to publish. So if we this short time span, we cannot explain everything. If you need, it will take a workshop full 7 days like that for how to go for research article publication. So thank you again. We will wait for the next speaker to speak.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doctor. Okay, we will be wait to Miss Petria. Have you been joining with us here?
Hello, good morning.
Okay, good morning, Miss Petria. Okay, before you're starting to continue to deliver your discussion or maybe your lessons here, so let me tell and read your bio or your CP first. Okay. Okay. Dr. Petria Nur Anissa Dewi, PhD, her educational background. So her Doctor of Veterinary Medicine from the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine from IPB University, starting from 27. And then her PhD in comparative medicine or molecular pathology, Wake Forest University from North Carolina, yes, United States of America from 2013.
That's
then,
graduation year, actually.
Oh, okay, graduation year. And then the certification in laboratory animal medicines from University of Guelph, Ontario, Canada, right? And then her scientific interest is about comparative medicine, animal models, and also cancer research from AICUC. Okay, and her affiliations AICUC Chair, Pusat Studi Satwa Primata PSSP LPPM IPB University, Research Science, and also adult consultant from Triple LAC International, and the other special for the primatology program in Graduate School of IPB University and Bimana Indo-Medical. And then she also active in the organization, like to become Ketua Umum Perhimpunan Peneliti dan Pengguna Hewan Laboratorium Indonesia. And then she also active in as a Wakil Ketua Association Dokter Hewan Praktisi Hewan Laboratorium Indonesia, Wakil Ketua Perhimpunan Dokter Hewan Indonesia, and as a member of the American Association for Laboratory Animal Science, and also as a member of the American Association for Cancer Research. So I think she's a very expert and so many experience that she has, right? Okay, well, to make it certain time, so I will welcome to Miss Fitria Nur Anissa to deliver her discussion and her relations today. So welcome to Miss Fitria. Time is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Heri. And before I start, I think I would like also to thank the organizing committee for inviting me today. So I thank you. Oh, sorry, Dr. Rizky, I meant, yes. So Dr. Heri from LPPM, thank you very much for your invitation. Dr. Nurmila Sari, the chair of the organizing committee, as well as the chair of the IACUC of University of Bengkulu. Thank you so much for the opportunity for me to be here today and share some information, I guess. And I don't think this is a lecture. I think it's more of a hopefully interactive discussion with the participants today. And also, I'd like to say thank you, Dr. Sandeep, for that very thorough and very clear explanation of how the journal would expect how we publish our manuscript. Because I think that's a really great summary, and also it makes my job a lot easier for the next talk, because you already touch on every important aspect on what we need to consider for publishing a manuscript. So I would try to complement that talk from Dr. Sandeep along with the specifics on what the IACUC or the ethics committee. I think the Indonesia people are more familiar with the term ethics committee, which is actually the same as the institutional animal care and use committee in terms of some of the job descriptions. So I guess without further ado, I'm gonna jump into my my talk. If hopefully I can do the share screen. Okay, sudah kelihatan barangkali Dr. Rizky.
Yes, we have already. It's so clear.
Okay. How about now? Is it clear now? Is the slideshow?
Yes.
Okay, great. So first of all, selamat pagi menjelang siang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So I already did some brief introduction, and I think it's a little bit awkward for me to try and speak in English to a mostly Indonesian audience, but I understand this is an international symposium, so please do excuse me, Dr. Sandeep, and maybe some of the audience that speaks English, that maybe in some part of my presentation I would probably insert some Indonesian terminology or bahasa Indonesia to make it clearer for the audience, hopefully. So as
Miss,
been introduced,
it is not full screen. You make full screen slide.
Sorry?
Slide, you make full screen.
I already did. Can you see?
It is not coming full screen.
Smaller.
How about now?
Yes,
okay,
now.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, good.
All right. So it's clear now?
It is clear.
Okay, great. Okay, so as Dr. Rizky already introduced the brief CV that he read, so today I represent the Indonesian Lab Animal Veterinarians Association atau Asosiasi Dokter Hewan Praktisi Hewan Lab Indonesia, and as well as Indonesian Association for Lab Animal Science, or in Indonesian language is Perhimpunan Peneliti dan Pengguna Hewan Lab Indonesia. Jadi so hopefully today I would talk more given more broad information, but also hopefully try to look at it from our perspective in Indonesia in terms of the challenges that we have in Indonesia. And as mentioned in the CV as well, I'm currently the chair of the IACUC, or the Ethics Committee, the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee in the Primate Research Center, IPB University. So Dr. Sandeep has clearly stated that we do use animals a lot of times in our research, and because as we know, animals play a very important role in various educational purposes, research, as well as testing. But we also know that research and testing using animals may cause pain and distress to them. So it's not always a comforting or a happy situation, in fact, for the animal. So the key is how to actually we do a very ethical approach and in the care and use of those lab animals. So how do we make sure that our study would emphasize and make the benefit as high as possible, while we try to minimize or eliminate, if possible, the harm that the harm that may be introduced to the animals. So the ideal approach would be to not use animals at all, right? Can we actually replace the use of animals in answering our scientific questions? Although the technology has developed and now we can do a lot of cell cultures, we can do a lot of in silico or computational approach to our studies, but unfortunately, of course, there are still things that we cannot answer using a cell culture approach or an in vitro non-animal model approach. So a lot of time we still do need to answer our scientific questions in a whole organism model, which means we have to use animals. And so if we can't replace the use of animals with something non-animal, then if we have to use animals, then the ethical approach would be, how do we minimize the pain and how do we eliminate possible pain and distress that the animals may undergo throughout the study. So I would like to remind everyone that Dr. Sandeep has actually already really emphasized that it's our ethical responsibility to make sure that the study is being done in such ethical approach. But I would also like to remind everyone that we really need to be a responsible user. When we do our research using animals, that's a privilege. That's a privilege that we can use animals. So we have to be responsible, and also the fact that these days there's a lot of challenges coming from people who do really care about the animals. So a lot of the animal rights group or animal liberations group is not really a fan of us doing studies in animals, right? So some of them are just focusing on their dislike just by saying that they don't like it, but some could go to an extreme where they would do a lot of demonstration in front of the institution, and they can actually, this one is relatively extreme, they put a bomb in the researcher's car, or they would stalk the house, or they would go to the lab to liberate the animals. So those things, those challenges do occur in countries with a more developed more developed countries. But in Indonesia, we haven't really gone into this kind of challenges. So I'd like to remind everyone that although we don't really face this similar situation, nobody actually really go into our institution and say that you can't use animals and all that. But we do have to still be responsible and know what actually we can and we cannot do when we do research with animals. What are our boundaries? What are ethical limitations? How do we actually implement the animal welfare? So before these group would come and actually make it more difficult or more strict for it's better for us to actually know how to do it properly before this kind of a challenge would come to the country. So this is from the European Union, that if we consider in using animals in research, we should know that the likely harm ya, kerugian pada hewannya atau rasa sakit pada hewannya, should be balanced against the expected benefit of the project, which means the benefit should be high and the harm should be low. Okay, so how do we approach this, right? So it's basically, there are three main principles in trying to reach this ethical use of animals, which basically means the first one is the 3 R's principle. Maybe some of you are familiar with 3 R's, maybe some of you are not familiar. So 3 R's basically are replacement, reduction, and refinement. So the first R would be how to replace the use of animals. How can we use a non-animal model, or can we use a lesser model, a lower model in taxonomy that would not feel pain and stress as much as the higher animals? And then the reduction principle, how do we reduce the number? How can we just use just some small numbers, not too much, not too many? And how do we refine our study? How can we use methods that would minimize the pain and distress in the animals? And also the 5 freedoms of animal welfare. I won't have time to go into details of the 5 freedoms. Maybe some of you are familiar with this and maybe some of you are not, but basically animal welfare is a concept that we need to implement in any use of animals, actually, not just use of animals in research, any use of animals, even in our companion animals and agricultural animals. We need to make sure that they're free from hunger and thirst, they're free from discomfort, they're free from pain, disease, or injury, they're free from fear and distress, and they are also free to express their natural behavior. So that's the main goal of animal welfare. And hopefully when we care, when we keep our animals for research, we also consider these 5 freedoms that we need to comply to. And also the latest or more recent ethical principle is how to make the use, how to make our study reproducible. I think Dr. Sandeep already mentioned about this too, that the fact that, if our study didn't work, how we want to make sure that nobody else would try to do the exact same thing and then fail again, So we need to make sure that our study is something that can be consistent when repeated by other people. So because the issue now is very difficult in obtaining a reproducible data when it's very difficult when some experiment being repeated by another party or by another laboratory, sometimes the result is not consistent. And if that's the issue, it means something wrong with the study. It could be something with the study, or it could be something wrong with the way we write our manuscript, or it could be many things, and including ethical issues can be the source of problem. So what is animal welfare and why does it matter for your research? Okay, so first, the definition of animal welfare itself is basically animal is in a good welfare when they are able to cope with the conditions they live in which they live. So if they're in a good welfare, they're healthy, they're comfortable, they are well nourished, they're safe, they're able to express their innate behavior, and they are not suffering from any unpleasant states such as in pain or fear or distress. So when we try to protect the animal welfare, it means we try to provide their need, whether that's physical need as well as mental needs, okay? So why does it matter for our research? Why do we need to make sure these animal principles, the animal welfare principles are met in our study, okay? As I said, the 5 freedom, right? We want to make sure they're not hungry, they're not thirsty, they're not in discomfort, they're not in pain, they're not in injury, they're not in stress, they're not afraid, they're are able to express natural behavior. Why? Because if these 5 items or these 5 principles are not met, it would have effect on the physiology, on the metabolism, and the disease susceptibility of the animals, their reproduction ability, as well as their behavior. And of course, a lot of times our research or our study would have to some degree a focus on these aspects, right? So we don't want any abnormality in physiology, metabolism, susceptibility of disease, reproduction, as well as behavior that's caused by animal in a non-welfare state to confound our data. We don't want that our data is not valid because actually the animals are not in good condition since the beginning because of the way we keep them. So we need to make sure that that doesn't happen. That's why we need to make sure that the animal is in a good welfare state so that their normal physiological and biological behavior would actually support our data, right? Because there's this saying that good animal care and good science actually go hand in hand. Because if we don't care for the animals in a good way, if we don't treat them well, our data would actually go I would say, go crazy sometimes. You know, it's like, it's not even valid. So we won't get a good data if we can't really keep the animal in a good state. Yeah, so the good animal care and good science go hand in hand. So now then we jump into why then there's need to be an ayah cook. Okay, ayah cook. In the beginning, I said that ayah cook in Indonesia can sometimes be called komisi etik, the ethics committee, right? So maybe some people in Indonesia is also already familiar with the term ayah cook, but some maybe this may be the first time you've heard of ayah cook. So ayah cook atau yakuk ya, di Indonesia disebut yakuk kadang-kadang, atau ACUC. Yeah, it stands for Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee. So this is a committee that is responsible for providing oversight of any animal care and use program in your institution, right? So it also includes ongoing assessment of any types of caring and using of animals that's being conducted in your institution. Jadi komite ini berperan dan bertanggung jawab dalam melakukan pengawasan atau oversight di dalam segala bentuk program pemeliharaan dan penggunaan hewan yang ada di institusi. So in Indonesia, you call this komite etik, atau sometimes komite etik hewan. Yeah, so AICO is actually a terminology that's more popular in the USA, ya, di Amerika dan banyak negara lain. So in another country, you could call them ACC. Sometimes, like in Canada, they call them ACC, Animal Care Committee, and in Australia they call it AEC, Animal Ethics Committee. And in some countries, like in Europe, European Union, they would have a requirement to have this called AWB, or Animal Welfare Body, but then the name of the committee could vary, depends on the country. But basically, in developed countries, and actually in a lot of countries in the world, this type of committee is mandated. You must have this type of committee in an institution to make sure that your animal care and use program are being overseen by this committee to make sure it complies with ethical and animal welfare standards. Okay, in Indonesia, a lot of institutions already have this, and the names vary. Ada yang namanya Komisi Etik Hewan, ada yang namanya Komisi Etik Pemeliharaan Hewan, Komite Etik Pemeliharaan dan Penggunaan Hewan, or like in PSSP namanya KPKPHP 4, Komisi Pengawasan Kesejahteraan dan Penggunaan Hewan dalam Penelitian, Pengujian, Pendidikan dan Penangkaran. So depending on the institution, there's no same or standard name of the committee. It could be anything, but it's actually a translation of the terminology that is in another country. A lot of institutions use this term, KEPK, Komite Etik Penelitian Kesehatan, but sometimes, depending on the institution, sometimes KEPK can mean a mixture of ethics committee for the human patient subject and the animal and research, but sometimes, like in the IPB, it's split between komite etik untuk pasien manusia, untuk subjek manusia, dengan komisi etik untuk penelitian yang menggunakan hewan. So it still varies in Indonesia. Okay, so why do we need an ayah cook, right? Because there should be a system that can ensure the moral responsibility of the researcher to make sure that the researcher comply to ethics standards and animal welfare standards. So that's the main idea, actually. So there should be a system where we make sure that all researchers that use animals actually comply to ethics and welfare standards. So and other reason why there is a need for an ayah cook in the institution is, first of all, because usually the law or the guidelines requires the institution to have it. It could be a national guideline or an institutional guideline. And there's a need for public assurance. As I said, a lot of people becomes more and more caring and concerned with how animals are used in research. So there need to be assurance for the public that when we use animals for research purposes, we comply to the animal welfare standards. We do it ethically. So there should be assurance to the public, and that can be achieved by making sure that your study is being well overseen by the ayah cook. And another purpose, of course, of having ayah cook, the ayah cook can help you to make sure that the quality of your study is good. Because as I said, if the animal is not even a welfare state, if you don't do your study ethically, most likely the science of your study or the scientific quality of your study would not be good. So the ayah cook is there to help you to make sure that principles are met so that your quality of your study can be improved. And of course, publication requirement. A lot of, if maybe most of journals these days, they would require some ethical statement or some statement saying that study have been approved and reviewed by an IACUC, like what Dr. Sandeep has mentioned in his talk, that there should be an ethical statement saying this, the IACUC approved this, or ethics committee approved this, da, da, da. So that's why the institution must have an IACUC. And also, if there's an IACUC, it can actually support the institution to have more international collaboration. Because as I said, in a lot of more developed countries, IACUC is a must. They are stipulated by the law. The law said that every institution in that particular country must have an IACUC in order to make sure that every study involving animals are in good welfare and ethical state. So if that other institution in another country wants to collaborate with our institution in Indonesia, then they would ask, do you have an IACUC? How do you make sure, what's the system in your institution to make sure that all animal studies are in compliance to the law? That's why you need an IACUC. And also when your institution is thinking about getting a international accreditation, such as from the ALAC International. ALAC International is an multinational organization that goes around different countries and giving assessment and accreditation to institutions that have animal care and use program. So this accreditation requirement by the ALAC International would require or mandate that institution, if you use animals in research and testing and education and breeding for scientific purposes, you must have an IACUC, okay? And as I said, one of the reasons is usually IACUC, the presence of IACUC is stipulated in the law. Dan di Indonesia, nih, excuse me for switching to bahasa Indonesia, di Indonesia sudah ada aturan hukum mengenai kesejahteraan hewan ya, bahwa prinsip 5F yang tadi saya sebutkan, the 5 Freedom of Animal Welfare, itu sudah ada di Undang-Undang 18 tahun 2009, PP 95 tahun 2012, dan Undang-Undang 41 tahun 2014, yang secara spesifik menyebutkan bahwa penggunaan hewan itu harus memperhatikan 5 freedom, termasuk dalam hewan yang digunakan dalam riset. Okay, so when we talk about a more national guidelines, so there are actually national guideline by the CAPCAN ya, Komisi Etik Penelitian dan Pengembangan Kesehatan Nasional, the National Ethics Committee for the use of animals in medical research, and these guidelines actually specifically said that there should be an IACUC, and where the IACUC should have a veterinarian, dokter hewan, ada scientistnya, ada non-scientist. So this actually have been clearly stated here, but this is not obligatory for every single institution in the country. And also there are some national guidelines that actually not for our country, not for Indonesia. Ini ada agricultural guide and also the guide for the care and use of live animals, which is actually a US guideline. But again, if you're trying to get an accreditation, then the national guideline is not enough. Then you have to jump to this foreign guideline that have been an international standard according to ALAC. So what does an IACUC do? First, the IACUC would review and approve all activities that related to the care and use of animals, meaning that all studies, all research before being conducted, if your research is going to use animals, is going to care for animals, then you would need review and approval by an IACUC, okay? And then the IACUC would also review and approve if there is any significant changes during that study. If you're conducting the study, during the ongoing study, you have something that you want to change, you have something you want to modify, you have to submit it to the IACUC, and the IACUC would review and approve it. And the IACUC would also do a review of the whole program of the institution, okay? Not just every single research proposal, but the IACUC would usually do a semi-annual or annual review of the whole program in the institution. And also the IACUC would do an inspection to the facility that house animals in your institution in order to give a report to the management or to the, we call it IO, like the dean or kepala LPPM atau rektor, whoever in the top management of the institution that have the authority to make decisions about animal research program, whoever that person is, who the IACUC reports to, the IACUC would give recommendations on how do we improve the program, how do we improve the facility, how do we make sure that all researchers' purpose or aim can be accommodated while still in line with all the animal welfare and ethics principles. So those kind of recommendations are being given by the IACUC to the institution. And again, so they make the report and then make the recommendation. And also, usually the IACUC would have a system to review and investigate if there is any animal welfare concerns during any use of animals in your institution. Okay, and hopefully the IACUC will be given sufficient authority by the management to suspend if there is any activity that involve animals that actually does not comply with the animal welfare and ethics standards. So what kind of study that would require an IACUC review? Ya? Jadi jenis studi apa yang kemudian akan perlu mendapatkan approval dari Komisi Etik? Okay, but some countries have specific law and regulations in place to regulate this. Say like US, for example, or Singapore or Thailand. They would actually have specific law, ya, undang-undang, as well as regulations and guidelines that actually state specifically that each institution would need to have an IACUC, and every study or every activity involving animals must be reviewed by the IACUC and so on. But not all countries have this kind of regulations, right? And then some institutions, when they are accredited, such as by ALAC International, even if they are not in the country that says you have to have an IACUC, because they are accredited by ALAC, then they must adhere to the ALAC standards, which means then they must have an IACUC, okay? But also, of course, there are institutions that's not in the country that already have this specific law and regulations, and these institutions are not accredited by ALAC, so they are not regulated by any means. So they must therefore refer to what's typically required by international standards. And this is why important that you take a good attention to what Dr. Sandeep has mentioned before and what the journal's expectations are. Because usually the journal would have some sort of statement or policy in regards to how the journal expect your manuscript have been reviewed, or not just the manuscript, sorry, the study in the first place have been reviewed and has been approved by the IACUC in the first place. So in Indonesia, although we have the law and regulations in place, but the regulations doesn't, not all the regulations specifically mention how the IACUC should work. So that's why, like under the CAPCAN ya, Komisi Etik Penelitian Kesehatan, sudah disebutkan harus ada komite etik, tapi juga belum diatur komite etiknya itu apakah split antara manusia dengan subjek manusia dengan subjek hewan. So and then the regulation in Undang-Undang Nomor 18 Tahun 2009 sudah menyebutkan juga mengenai ada komisi etik gitu, tapi belum juga secara spesifik dijelaskan cara kerja komisinya seperti apa. So again, in Indonesia we do have the law and regulations in place, but it's not really detailed. So even so, again, like in PSSP, because we're ALAC accredited, then we like it or not, we have to follow the standards used by ALAC. So then we go further. But again, a lot of the institutions in Indonesia are not accredited internationally. So even though we don't have specific law and regulations that really detail saying how the IACUC should review, but usually then we have to look at what is the international standard, what is expected by the journal. Okay, so waktunya berapa lama lagi, Dr. Rizky?
5 minutes more.
Oh, 5 minutes, really? Okay, I still have a lot of slides actually. Okay, so what does the journal expect? So the journal, as I will go fast through these slides because Dr. Sandeep has clearly mentioned. So usually the journal, depending on what the journal is, the journal would have a statement saying that your study must be approved by IACUC. Like this one, if your study involve any animal subject or tissue or field sampling, then it must adhere to this method policy on how you write your method. And usually you would be expected to write the full name of the ethics committee, the permit number, if it's approved in the first place. If it's not, if it doesn't require ethical approval, why, you have to explain. Even in observational and field study, the same thing is applied. Okay, and also even sometimes the journal now goes further in asking you to elaborate the details or steps taken to minimize the animal suffering during the research. Okay, this is just some more examples. And this is just showing actually now there is some journals, a lot of journals actually like PLOS, Nature, Biomed Central, and like over 1,000 journals actually now recommend, sometimes mandate when you try to submit your manuscript to these types of journals, sometimes they want you to make sure that the way you write your manuscript must be according to what's in the guideline called ARRIVE. ARRIVE guideline is a guideline that give you recommendation on how you report animal research, studies from animal research, okay? So this is actually issued in 2010 by the NC3R, National Center of 3Rs in UK. And the new version has just been issued 2 months ago or so. And ARRIVE guideline is actually very helpful. So while Dr. Sandip already talked about the details of how you write the manuscript as a whole, as the whole manuscript, although as he said, actually required a workshop to discuss the details of every aspect. But in ARRIVE guideline here, I would just like to focus on how you need to describe about animals. So the ARRIVE guideline would want you, when you talk about sample size, they want you to state why you decide on that particular sample size. And then they would want you to explain the experimental animals, specifically the species, the strain, the sex, the age or stage, the weight of the animal, where did you get the animal, and the health status of the animal, and then your experimental procedures, what was done, when was done, how often, and all that kind of stuff is being elaborated by ARRIVE guideline. Like in the background, they want to know how the animal species and model used address the scientific objective. They want you to provide the name of ethical review committee that has approved the use of animals. They want you to provide the details of housing and husbandry, how you provide environmental enrichment to the animals. They want you to describe interventions to make sure that the animals are not in pain, suffering, or distress. So again, some journals have gone this far to expect more on how you report your animal use to make sure that the welfare standards actually been complied to. So this is why you need your IACUC's help. The IACUC would actually help you prepare before you start your study, right? Before you start your study, you would prepare your study, you would write your proposal, and then you would submit it to the IACUC, to submit to committee ethics. The IACUC would help and review it and to make sure that all those standards hopefully have been complied. So later on, when you actually try to submit your manuscript, when the manuscript asks for all these details like this, then you can easily just write them because hopefully those things have been addressed in the first place. Okay, and this is, I just like to also introduce that actually there's a new guideline that's recommended by the Norecopa, the Norwegian organization that's focused on 3Rs. And they recommend on how you would prepare your study. First, how would you formulate your study? That they would ask you to have a dialogue between the scientist and the animal facility, because most of the times you would write your proposal, but you don't really go into details and actually looking at the feasibility of your study. How would your animal facility be able to accommodate that? Would it match between what you plan and what the animal facility actually have? Okay, so these things, I'm not going to go into details, but just to let you know that actually there's some guideline that can help you prepare, because as I said, preparing the study is really a critical point in order to make sure that by the time you publish your research, you can actually follow and give all the informations needed by the journal, because hopefully when you prepare it right and the IACUC helped you in the beginning in making sure that all those have been considered, then you can write your manuscript nicely. So this is just quickly showing that this is how the guideline look like. I'm not going to go into details. So they actually go specific. When I said there's 15 things that you need to think about, they give you a checklist on making sure that you actually have already considered about those items. Say like just give you one example, like for example, experimental animal. Have you decided the characteristic of the animal that would be essential to this study? And have you make sure that you don't use too many animals? So those kind of things that they help you prepare. So how to comply with the standards? A lot of things, right? So making sure that are you sure that the right scientific questions being asked? Is the aims and objectives of your study achievable? What's your experimental approach? What's the design? Is it novel? And what are the ethical issues? This is similar to what Dr. Sandip has mentioned. So the IACUC would want to make sure that you've considered the harm versus benefit, that you want to make sure the benefit is high while the harm is low. And have you considered the 3Rs? Have you tried to replace the use of animals? Have you tried to reduce your animal number? Have you tried to refine your method? Have you considered how to implement 5 freedoms of animal welfare in your study? So the IACUC would not perform a scientific review. The IACUC would not go into details on your scientific merit, but the IACUC would want to help you to make sure that all these have been considered. Okay, so I'm gonna focus, sorry, hold on. I'm going to cut into the last slide. Here. So this would be the things that you consider when you're preparing your research proposal. What's the purpose, the description of procedures, the replacement, the species and number, to make sure there's no duplication. How would you care for your animal? Would it impact your animal's well-being? Would animal feel any pain, and how to manage the pain? Is there any surgery? How would you do post-procedural care and observation? The endpoint, a human endpoint on when the animal have to be euthanized when they're in suffering. What's the euthanasia method? Who the study and what's the qualification? And if you're going to use any hazardous materials, and how would that impact the safety of the personnel? So that's what I can share this morning, and hopefully you can appreciate how good animal care and good science go hand in hand. And these days, ethical and animal welfare assurance is actually a requirement to publish in good journals. So the IACUC in your institution can help play an important role in making sure that your study comply to those standards, okay? So please prepare and conduct your study wisely and understand what the IACUC expect, because usually they would go hand in hand with what the journal later on would expect when you try to publish them. That actually all that I can present today. So again, thank you to the organizing committee for your invitation, and hopefully we can discuss more in the discussion session. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much to Miss for your presentations for today. Sharing information is very interesting, and actually we got so many informations. This is a very beneficial, especially when before we submit to our paper, especially related when we were use the animals. So it's that we have to care, and then we have to know how to treat the animal before, and also you know, to publish in a good journal or maybe in a good paper. Nowadays, so many people ask to us to put the animal welfare letter submission, right? So it's mean that there are so many things that we have to take care about the animals before we treat them, and then we have to also obey about 3R principle and also 5 freedoms of the animal welfare, and so many things. And then how important about the committee ethic, right? Nowadays the committee ethic is a very important to, for example, like to mix, for example, like the animal welfare letter submittings. Okay, well, after that, we now entering for the question and answer session. I think maybe there are so many participants and also the audience from YouTube that want to ask many questions to our awesome speaker now. Okay, so and then maybe
there are some questions actually for both keynote speakers. And may I read the question?
Yes.
Okay, it is from Ahmad Bayu Aryawan from University Halu Uleo Kendari, Sulawesi Tenggara. For Dr. Sandeep, if my research is taking about food processing science, although it will be started from slaughtering, will this research need an animal ethic from IACUC? Because using for documentation that, okay, I think the question is about the need of the ethics certificate for submission to some journal publisher. So Dr. Sandeep, the question is about food processing science. Do you think this topic will need animal ethics certificate from an institution? Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for the nice question. Actually, any experiment we do, we need ethical committee clearance. Even it is food processing means if you do on animal, we should have animal ethics clearance. As Madam just now told that you have to, we have to be very careful about the animal protection. We cannot simply kill animals, and when we go for good journal, they always look for the clearance from animal ethics committee, etc. If should it should be clear from the animal ethics committee of the institute first, then if needed other places. The animal ethics committee of the institute will tell that yes, it is required, next stage, so we have to take permission from government or etc, then we can do. Suppose if I do some experiment in animal of Malaysia, and I want to do some experiment on Indonesian animal, I want to export the animal in Malaysia, then there should be a clearance from both government authorities. Otherwise I cannot export any animal, any DNA, any biomaterials from other side, outside Malaysia to here, or here to Indonesia, like that. So we have to be very clear about the animal ethics committee. But if we do suppose a food experiment on fish tank, fish, that also need clearance from the ethical committee. If suppose we do the experiment, how means which animal we are doing, that is most important. Some animal we don't require because it is exempted from the ethical committee issues. As researcher, you should go directly and consult with the ethical committee or in charge. They will guide you if it is required or not, and if required, what to the procedure we have to do. They will inform you, and then accordingly you proceed. Thank you. Madam, may highlight anything about the Indonesian rules, if any special? Dr. Firtia, you can tell.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sandeep. Actually, that's really important. In Indonesia, right now, there's no specifics on how on the guidelines or in the law in terms of which animals are exempted from an IACUC review or not. So that's why it's a little bit sometimes it's a little bit confusing for the participants or for people or for researchers when that which type of study would actually need an ethical review or not. So it's maybe unlike in Malaysia or in some countries where it's really clear these types of animals like cephalopods, as you said, mollusks included or exempted, fish exempted or not. So in Indonesia, there's no clear cut answer to that yet, Dr. Sandeep. That's why sometimes it's challenging. So usually I would recommend, like what you said, try to look at the guidelines on what the ethical committee or the ICOOC would require. But again, because it's difficult from the national standpoint, usually I would recommend them to look at the journals itself, right? Because this journal would sometimes say, if it's vertebrates, if it's cephalopods, please make sure that it's you have an ethical review and those kind of information, Dr. Sandeep. Because again, in Indonesia, it's not really a clear-cut limit in which type of studies would require and which types does not require.
Thank you. Actually, yes, madam. Actually, when we do animal, vertebrate actually need ethical clearance. Invertebrate we don't consider for require, because we don't like plant. When we do, we don't require ethical clearance, but we can cut any tree. So like that. But ethically we cannot cut tree. So same thing. Ethically we cannot kill fish also. Ethically we cannot kill any invertebrate also, vertebrate also. But as I told that there is some red listed endangered species in invertebrate also, smaller vertebrates and non-mammals also. So we have to be considerate that we can kill the turtle, we can do the experiment on calotes, we can do the experiment on crocodile, like that. So we have to be very careful which animal we are doing. So accordingly, so I have also on publication I can share you, but suppose long time back I have published 2000 in food and chemical toxicology. So that one suppose is citing by source. Now we can see that Scopus is citing, or where we can cite, everything can be clearly visible. So when we do experiment, that is already everybody see from other side the food, which food we are testing in which animal, everything can be seen in social media everywhere now very easily. So we have to be means, as you told, that we have to go for review and also see the other person what they're doing, accordingly we can proceed. Thank you. And
Okay,
next question please.
thank you for your answer. and a very nice discussion, a very short discussion between you and Dr. Fitria. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, to the next question, especially to the keynote speaker of Miss Fitria. Ini ada pertanyaan dari Ahmad Bayu Aryawan dari Fakultas Perbankan Universitas Haloleo. Dia menanyakan kepada Dr. Fitria, bertanya pada apakah ada tahapan komite etik terlibat dalam penilaian proposal dosen sebelum diloloskan oleh LPPM atau setelah direview oleh reviewer. Jadi maksudnya apakah komite etik ini terlibat dalam hibah di dalam universitas ataupun hibah dari nasional gitu? Apakah terlibat?
Oke, baik. Ini saya jawab dalam bagaimana?
Ya, please dalam bahasa Indonesia saja.
Oke, baik. Baik. Excuse me, Dr. Sandeep, that I would reply in Indonesian language. So basically, the question is about whether an IACUC review is required in which step within the university's review step. Oke, baik. Ini pertanyaan yang bagus dan saya rasa saat ini sih memang masih bervariasi ya antar institusi ya. Jadi kalau dari saran saya, kalau memungkinkan memang step, jadi memang benar-benar tergantung dari sistem granting atau funding yang berlaku di institusi tersebut gitu ya. Jadi ini kalau misalnya bicara nantinya untuk mengajukan ke hibah nasional gitu misalnya, nanti kan setiap institusi ada juga yang memberlakukan misalnya diseleksi dulu internally di dalam LPPM atau masing-masing dosen boleh ngajuin sendiri ke hibah. Itu nanti ini jawaban saya nggak bisa clear cut atau jelas untuk setiap institusi ya, karena nanti setiap institusi juga akan punya sistem reviewnya masing-masing. Tapi kalau saran saya, in any step during review tersebut, itu sebaiknya komite etik itu sebaiknya kalau memungkinkan itu dari awal sebelum nantinya di approve, karena takutnya waktu nanti ternyata banyak masukan dari komite etik, ternyata berubahnya cukup banyak, lalu nanti penelitinya mengalami kesulitan untuk sama dengan apa yang dia sudah laporkan ke granting agency atau ke funding agency bahwa dia akan lakukan gitu. Jadi kalau misalnya tahapan review, mungkin bukan review resmi pun nggak masalah ya, tapi tahapan konsultasi itu ada gitu di awal, itu mungkin akan membantu supaya proposalnya itu comply-nya selain dari secara saintifik, tapi diyakinkan juga dari sisi welfare-nya juga sudah in compliance gitu ya. Nah, jadi kalau kita mengacu di luar misalnya, kalau di luar negeri kan memang ada scientific review board dan ada IACUC ya. Jadi ada yang bagian review saintifiknya di utek-utek banget gitu dari sisi saintifik. Kemudian ada sisi IACUC. Nah, biasanya scientific review board dulu internally, ya, ini belum ngajuin ya, ini baru review board di dalam internal institusinya, ada scientific review board, mengutak-nutik isi dari proposalnya dilihat dari sisi saintifik, lalu dilarikan ke IACUC untuk make sure oke apa segala macam, baru nanti biasanya ngajuin lagi gitu. Biasanya sih baru ngajuin ke tempat yang kemanapun pemberi hibah gitu ya. Jadi nanti akan disesuaikan gitu. Saya mau memberikan jawaban yang clear bahwa sebaiknya di awal, tapi saya tahu kadang-kadang nggak applicable juga gitu ya. Jadi nanti sebetulnya tergantung jalur di dalam LPPM atau di dalam kampus. Karena saya tahu juga ada beberapa yang even nggak harus lewat LPPM. Beberapa universitas itu bisa masing-masing fakultas misalnya ngajuin sendiri. Jadi saya nggak punya jawaban yang bagus yang bisa berlaku buat semua, tapi saran saya adalah kalau bisa ada tahapan di mana IACUC ini bisa membantu either konsultasi ataupun sudah formal review di tahapan awal supaya nanti nggak bentroknya waktu sudah disetujuinya ini, waktu mengerjain ternyata nggak sesuai dengan standar welfare. Mungkin seperti itu kira-kira.
Terima kasih Mbak Nur. Kemudian pertanyaan yang berikutnya ya.
Ada permintaan pertanyaan dari Prof. Suhubdi, ada yang raise hand.
Terima kasih. Mungkin ke Bu Dewi saja pertanyaan saya. Kalau dulu waktu kita sekolah di Australia, saya sendiri memang Animal Ethics Committee itu ketat sekali gitu. Jadi kita belum memulai semuanya. Tapi sekarang saya mau tanyakan kan, kalau di luar negeri kan hampir seluruh universitas kan ada komite etiknya. Nah kita di Indonesia ini mungkin IPB atau Gajah Mada yang sudah ada, yang lain saya belum paham betul. Nah, kira-kira maksud saya pertama bagaimana kita harus membangun komite animal ethics di universitas masing-masing. Nah, saya sendiri dulu sebelum memulai penelitian, saya juga mengikuti kursus animal ethics khusus gitu loh di Australia. Nah, ini kalau kita tadi kan belum jelas sekali Undang-Undang Nomor 18 atau yang dengan medical etik itu kan agak beda, mungkin lebih kebanyak manusia.
Ya,
Nah,
betul.
dengan meningkatnya masih kebutuhan jurnal juga harus ada komite etik, kan agak lama kalau kita ke AIKU untuk menyampaikan itu gitu. Nah, sekarang kira-kira di Indonesia ini bagaimana, apakah kita solusinya government, karena lama sekali kalau teman-teman nanti mesti harus berurusan dengan komite etik kan, dan ini harus dilakukan sebelum, karena waktu itu teman saya sudah jalan penelitiannya, belum datang komitenya, ya sudah begitu diberhentikan gitu. Dia tidak ada ampunnya, dia datang sendiri bawa kunci sendiri, dia dilepas ternak gitu. Nah, oleh karena itu kita sekarang mestinya setiap universitas Indonesia sudah harus. Oleh karena itu Mbak Dewi, kira-kira bagaimana solusinya sekarang supaya kita memiliki itu di setiap universitas, gitu, terutama yang ada animal science dan seterusnya gitu. Terima kasih.
Ya, baik, terima kasih Prof. Sugdi. Ini bagus sekali. Saya senang banget nih ditanya begini ya. Jadi memang betul sekali, memang sebetulnya seyogianya semua institusi, bahkan nggak hanya universitas ya, sebetulnya semua institusi, lembaga penelitian, basically semua institusi yang melakukan kegiatan penelitian, pengujian, dan pendidikan menggunakan hewan, itu sebaiknya ada cukupnya. Seperti betul di Australia akan sama seperti itu ya. Jadi harus ada review dari komisi etik dulu. Dan memang itu yang kami dari perhimpunan saat ini, dari Perhimpunan Peneliti dan Pengguna Hewan Lab Indonesia atau IALAS atau P3HLI dan juga ADHP-HLI berusaha mendukung dan berusaha meng-approach ke berbagai institusi yang belum punya itu untuk kalau bisa mulai di set up punya gitu. Memang tentunya nggak akan sempurna langsung gitu ya Prof ya, karena pasti nanti akan ada yang masih seadanya dulu, yang penting ada tapi belum optimal banget reviewnya, ada yang mungkin sudah nyampe di standarnya, berusaha mengikuti standar di luar, tapi baby steps lah. Jadi nanti akan disesuaikan dengan kemampuan masing-masing institusi, tapi saran saya memang bagaimana supaya yang di jajaran pimpinan, biasanya khususnya di LPPM, makanya saya apresiasi sekali di UNIP udah punya komite etik ya di bawah LPPM, itu biasanya kita encourage manapun di bagian di universitas tersebut yang akan berwenang mengatur program penelitian dengan hewan tuh sebaiknya memang punya komisi etik. Jadi biasanya seperti itu, dan kami dari perhimpunan biasanya kemudian mengadakan pelatihan begitu untuk kemudian yang ada mulai ada komisi etiknya baru mulai ataupun sudah berjalan, itu bisa ikut pelatihan tersebut untuk yakin bahwa tahu bagaimana cara beroperasionalnya dalam gitu ya. Jadi solusinya memang saat ini masih baby steps memang, dan kita masih berusaha mengencourage setiap institusi untuk memiliki awareness tersebut dan membentuk suatu komite etik. Tapi saya sadari juga kemudian nanti biasanya banyak peneliti yang merasa komisi etiknya geraknya lambat. Lalu jadinya tadi tidak helpful. Kita gimana mau publish cepat kalau geraknya lambat segala macam. Nah, itu yang memang sangat perlu support dari pimpinan. Akan sangat perlu dari pimpinan memberikan kewenangan yang sesuai, memberikan kesempatan untuk membentuk setup sistem yang baik gitu ya, policy-nya akan seperti apa, alur review seperti apa. Seperti kami saya mewakili Pusat Studi Satwa Primata ya. Jadi di IPB itu ada komisi etiknya IPB, komisi etiknya LPPM, di bawah LPPM ada yang komisi etik hewan dan ada yang manusia tadi. Lalu di Fakultas Kedokteran Hewan ada komisi etik hewan sendiri. Kami di Pusat Studi Satwa Primata IPB ada komisi etik hewannya sendiri. Nah, itu setiap komisi etik ini kira-kira frekuensi pertemuan dan lain sebagainya agak berbeda-beda gitu ya, tergantung dari kesanggupan dan juga tuntutan dari user. Dari kalau saya pribadi ketua yang di Pusat Studi Satwa Primata, kami ada pertemuan sebulan sekali, dan itu memang jadi kita pastikan bahwa semua proposal itu kita bisa follow up on time gitu, dan ada peran aktif dari beberapa perwakilan anggota untuk berkonsultasi sama yang akan nulis proposal. Jadi even sebelum masuk resmi ke dalam komisi etik sudah dibantu review untuk lihat bagaimana sebetulnya dari sisi etik cocok atau enggak dengan SOP yang ada. Nah, itu jadi sudah dibantu godok dari awal. Nah, tapi kembali lagi akan kembali ke komitmen dari masing-masing institusi juga ya Prof ya. Jadi agak susah pertanyaan ini. Jadi harapannya adalah bagaimana dari sisi pimpinan, biasanya dari sisi manajemen memberikan, satu ada dulu komisinya, kedua komisinya dibantu untuk bisa bekerja dengan optimal gitu, supaya yang terbantukan nanti adalah para usernya. Mungkin kira-kira seperti itu Pak.
Ya, kalau seandainya saya mau bentuk sendiri Muhammad di universitas saya, apa perlu saya minta rekomendasi ke AIKU untuk mulai menginisiasi gitu loh? Untuk membentuk
itu sebetulnya mungkin saya menyamakan persepsi dulu, Prof. Kalau IAKUP itu kan singkatan dari Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee, yang artinya adalah Komite Etik Hewan sebetulnya. Jadi kalau
Ya.
minta rekomendasi, apakah maksudnya rekomendasi ke nasional begitu atau bagaimana maksudnya, Prof?
Ya, makanya saya juga agak bingung. Artinya begini, kita di sini kalau menginisiasi maunya, misal saya di sini kan, apakah saya hanya datang ke rektor saja, atau memang perlu saya rekomendasi dari badan-badan internasional?
Biasanya sih saat ini, jadi mungkin kalau saya mau memastikan dulu, mungkin saya lihat juga di chat box, takutnya masih ada yang salah persepsi apa itu IAKUK. IAKUK itu adalah sebetulnya terjemahan Komisi Etik Hewan ya, jadi bukan sesuatu yang sifatnya internasional atau nasional, justru singkatannya Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee, artinya komite etik yang mengawasi care and use hewan di suatu institusi gitu ya. Jadi sifatnya memang institusional. Jadi artinya yang berkepentingan itu bisa langsung mengajukan ke institusinya saja, Prof. Jadi bisa langsung minta ke LPPM atau ke wakil rektor atau wakil dekan, tergantung. Saya pernah membantu yang membuat komisinya di level fakultas ada, yang membuatnya di level LPPM ada, yang membuatnya di level university ada gitu ya. Jadi memang tergantung, dan memang biasanya sih tidak perlu rekomendasi dari suatu badan nasional atau apa, enggak sih. Jadi biasanya kita datang membawa kepentingannya bahwa ini kita perlu, karena kalau enggak kita sulit publish gitu. Biasanya seperti itu. Kira-kira seperti itu.
Ya, I think saya kira ya, terima kasih Prof. Subdi. Seperti juga kami di Universitas Bengkulu, kami menginisiasi keberadaan animal ethic dan alhamdulillah disambut baik, dan kita kemudian mulai bertumbuh, artinya kami juga perlu belajar banyak dan membenahi sistem kami. Ya, terima kasih. That is a question from Professor Suhubdi. And another question from, let me check, another question from Ibu Jola Londo. If there is no ethical, no animal ethic committee in an institution, can the certificate is given from another institution, from a different institution? Is it possible to apply for a certificate from another institution which is not our home base? That's another question from Ibu Jola Londo, Manado. Maybe Prof. Dr. Dewi will answer this question, please.
Okay, so thank you, Ibu Sari. So I guess I would try to respond in English because the question is in English. So basically, this is a very tough question because I would like to answer ideally that since IACUC, again, Komite Etik Hewan, is Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee, it means that the committee should work institutionally within its institution, within its own institution. So ideally, if there's a researcher coming from another institute doing animal care and use program in another institute, then if you would like the ethical approval or ethical clearance comes from, so let's say there's institution A, institution B, right? Institution A have an IACUC, institution B doesn't have an IACUC. If B conduct research experiments, all the personnel in B, all the animals are in facility B, everything is institutional in B, and then because it doesn't have an IACUC and then it wants approval from A, I would say ideally from international standard, it's not allowed because the IACUC, again, it works institutionally, and the IACUC work is not only, as I said, the work is not only reviewing proposal, right? The work is reviewing the whole program, making sure that all personnel involved are competent, the qualification of, like what Professor Suhubdi said, in Australia, before you even do research, you have to go into a training to make sure that you're complied. You have to enroll in an ethics training, all that kind of stuff. It's that all assurance program is being run by the IACUC A. So if IACUC B all of a sudden comes and say, I am going to do research in institution B and I want approval from your IACUC, I would say, I would give an ideal answer and say that institutional A should not give a review and approval for that. But I know it's not easy in Indonesia because there's still so many places that doesn't have an IACUC, and then some institution wants to be helpful and then give the review and approval to another institution and implement their own review method for those kind of scenarios. And I can't say that that is not right, because there is no law saying that it's not right, but I would just give recommendation that it's possible if institution B already do a lot of research using animal, please start making your own ayakuk. So maybe in the meantime, maybe you can ask for help from institution A, but institution A and B should have some sort of MOU or agreement or collaboration or cooperation in making sure that Ayacook A can actually have all the responsibility and oversight to institution B program, because the responsibility the responsibility when you're published, if something is wrong, looking at the manuscript and the manuscript is actually not meeting any welfare standards and everything, the ones that would be blamed is Ayacook A. Well, Ayacook A giving approval, why would Ayacook A give approval if it doesn't have any power to make sure that Ayacook B, institution B does everything in accordance to what's recommended by Ayacook A. So again, the simple answer would be ideally, please do not get that type of approval from another institution. But I would say it's not easy in Indonesia, and I can't say for sure that it's dilarang gitu, nggak ada aturannya seperti itu. Tapi memang sebaiknya ada cara, walaupun institution A mau memberikan seperti itu ke B, A-nya ini bagaimana making sure dia tahu semua program yang dilaksanakan di B gitu. Jadi nggak langsung mudah berikan approval, tapi reviewnya bukan hanya review, tapi mengawasi jalannya juga seperti apa. Mungkin jalan tengahnya mungkin, tapi kalau bisa itu nggak long term, jadi kemudian B-nya mulai set up sendiri gitu. Mungkin kira-kira seperti itu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Fitria. I'm sorry. Sometimes I call you Dr. Dewi Fitria, and you've got so.
Dr. Pipit juga nggak apa-apa kok, Bu Sari.
Dr. Pipit, okay. Makasih Dr. Pipit. Okay. And one last question for Dr. Sandeep. Yeah. Do you think the possibility to get an indexed journal or reputable? The question is about how can you guarantee that that an article submitted to an index or like a Scopus index journal? Okay, this in Indonesia. I have to read this one. So the question is, how much is the possibility for an article with an ethic and an article without an ethic? Because some publisher doesn't mention about the requirement for an ethic certificate. Yes, that's the question. Thank you. And please, Dr. Sandeep, to give an answer.
Thank you. Actually, as we are publishing, as I told, that all experiment we should be ethically considerate about the animals. Like we cannot think that animals don't have any life. They also living being. So we should be considerate about the animal ethics, etc. So when we are giving the clearance from institution, etc., even the journal don't have the formats or etc. When we are writing, we should be very careful, because in future that article will be stayed. Because if we suppose now I am writing, after 20 years also that article is still people will read. Like just now I share in the group 2000, in the year 2000 that article has been published, but now after 20 years also the journal is Q1 ranked now, and everybody can read the index, etc. That time is not like the 2000 when I submit in 1999, that article is always submit by hard copy by post. So that is not, that time internet is there and nobody can access that article easily. So now it is online. So we are submitting everything online. So when we are submitting our work, we should be very careful what we are writing and what ethics we have followed. Everything should be clearly mentioned. Even the journal will go after 20 years, it may have something. So everybody should know that what ethical consideration you have taken care of. We have taken, like Dr. Firthi also showed the slides, that we should have proper housing, proper food facility. The animal should not be tortured. Animal what are the even more have like what are the sex of animal you have taken, if it is male or animal model, everything should be clearly mentioned. That if the journal also demand or not demand, that we don't have to see. We have to be careful from our side. We what we information we are doing, we should be full give in the experiment, so that the data who are using in the future, who is referring the article, they should be very clear. Yes, that gender bias is there. So we have, suppose we are doing animal experiment on anemia, so we should take consideration of male and female animal, like that. So we have to be very careful about the animal, everything that we are doing the experiment on male animal, female animal, which condition you have kept, what food we are giving, what narcotizing material we are using for killing the animal. Everything should be clearly, ethically, we have to clear and mention. So, and there is also, I understand that the journal, there are many fake journals also. You have to be very careful about fake journals. We have to, you can check in Indonesia, there is Sinta website, I think, the indexing link. So there you have to check the which journal is indexed in there, then you can publish. Other country also have their same indexing services. Like Malaysia, we have Malaysian Citation Center, Busat Sitasi, in Ministry of Education. So which journal is listed in there, we go for listed journal. And we prefer the academic journal, or suppose there are some publishers who are publishing, their business is publishing, like SBR. Their business is publishing, they are not academic body. So that also very good. So we have to think who are the publisher, we have to check, and where the journal is indexed. Even it is not Scopus also, that is not an issue. Web of Science Index or Sinta Index or Malaysian Ministry Index, like that, UGC Index in India, like many places, different country, different indexing bodies, that also should be, you have to check care that it is indexed or not. And sometimes it is new journal that is not indexed anywhere, that also very good running. So we have to check that is cross reference DOI is there, the DOI number is there for the articles. So then we can judge the journal that in future that may be Scopus Index, in future that may be Web of Science Index. So that is not that only we go for Scopus or only go for Web of Science. Yes, for our requirement we should go. Our main motto is the citation, the most read. So how much person can view my thing, that is our motto. Then our work can be circulated, my work can be circulated everywhere. Then we have to also be careful there that what is the ethical consideration we are taking care. Thank you for the question. And anything more, anybody?
Thank you very much. So it means that we have to pay attention on our own need. It is not about the journal or about the publisher, but it is also about our reputation.
Yes.
Because yeah, it is, we live in like
our publication, our reputation. So
yeah.
my name is associated means what I am writing. Everybody, when I published first paper in my PhD life, my teacher told that it is your PhD work, so you should not go for means bad publication. You wait, write properly and send to a good journal. Then that time I sent, I don't know about the journal name also anything. Madam told send here, so we post to there. So it take airmail and etc. We have to type in type machine. That time computer also not there in our facility in the lab in Calcutta University. So that time like that we have worked. So we have to careful about our work. As our name is associated, we should be very careful about that thing. Thank you, madam.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you so much for so great information that delivered by two awesome speakers here. But unfortunately, we have to end for our symposium today. But before that, before we finish and stop for our symposium, so let us to take a picture for all the participants and also the audience. So just active and on your camera, right? Okay, so we will count to take the picture on the slide. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
How many slides? Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, page 2. Now? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, next go on to the next page 3. Okay, it has been finished. Okay, good. Thank you so much. And also, thank you so much to all of the participants here. So actually, it's a very great and also, yeah, it's very interesting moment for us here. But we have to finish for our symposiums today. And I'm as the moderator, I do apologize if I did so many mistakes during the sessions of this panel. And then I will bring it back to the Miss Sari. Maybe Mrs. Sari, maybe you want to give us edit some sort of information about this work. Okay.
So yeah, thank you, Mr. Rizky. I'd like to express my highest gratitude to all the participants. Thank you very much for being here today, and also very much also thank you to the keynote speakers. Dr. Pipit, terima kasih sudah menerima tawaran saya dan a very nice discussion with Dr. Pipit. Thank you very much. We will.
Terima kasih sudah mengundang Bu Sari dan semua teman-teman di Komisi Etik Hewan Unip. Selamat berjuang.
Iya betul. Kita
butuh banyak masukan juga nih dari Mbak Pit ini. Soalnya kami baru merintis terkait dengan masalah daripada Komisi Etik di Unip juga kan. Jadi mungkin butuh banyak ideas yang kami perlukan dari termasuk dari Mbak yang sudah expert.
Anytime dengan senang hati kok. Saya selalu senang diskusi Komisi Etik Hewan. Anytime, Dr. Rizky, Dr. Sari, silahkan anytime kontak.
Ya, terima kasih banyak. We will continue our work and more works to do actually. And also, I'm lucky that today I have Dr. Sandip. Thank you very much, Dr. Sandip.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sandip.
And Dr. Sandip are very helpful with everything. You really do a big part of the success of our event. Thank you very much, Dr. Sandip, and we would like to have more discussion on how to publish a good paper, not only to get not only to be published in index or reputable journal, but also it is also it is also about how to set up or to build our own reputation as a scientist. Yeah, so thank you very much, Dr. Sandip. I'll contact you again. I'd like to have more discussion, and please.
Thank you. Thank you to you and Dr. Heri also. Prof. Heri is there. Prof. Subudhi is there. You can see all other professors who are present from different country. I have seen here. Thank you. Thank you for taking part in discussion and calling me.
Yeah, so very sorry that we have to end this event. I'll contact everyone again regarding the certificates. But for now, I'd like to say goodbye from the land of Rafflesia, Bengkulu University. Hope to see you in the next symposium. We will have another symposium within 3 weeks.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you and goodbye. Everyone can say hi. Maybe you meet some friends here.
Thank you so much to all the participants from Indonesia and also abroad, from Thailand, Malaysia, and also India, have been joined in this session of the symposium. So we will see you in another symposiums, right?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for
Thank you, Dr. Sandip and Dr. Dewi. Ya, Prof. Subudhi, lama sudah agak ketemu nih. Sehat, salam sehat, salam sehat.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih juga buat yang sudah nonton di YouTube. Ini banyak yang di YouTube, Pak. Karena tadi banyak aktivitas, jadi mereka prefer untuk watch from the YouTube channel.
Salam sehat semua. Assalamualaikum.
Terima kasih, Prof. Heri. Terima kasih undangannya.
Dewi, nanti saya kontak ya, Bu.
Ya, Dr. Pipit, besok-besok diundang lagi ya.
Oh, dengan senang hati.
Harus gali ilmunya nih, kita lagi setting up Animal Ethic Committee di sini.
Dengan senang hati, Bu Sari.
Oke.
Mas Subdi, makasih.
Terima kasih.
Okay, see you
Thank you
all.
ya.
Thank
Ya,
you.
Dr. Sandeep, thank you very much for your
Thank you.
ya.
sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Baik, Pak Saiful. Ya, Pak Dr. Sandi. Thanks for your.
Thank you.
Nah, sudah terkirim.
Bu Dr. Pipit, makasih banyak infonya. Ya.
Oh ini Pak, udah ada
Nanti
kameranya
kita
dari tadi.
kontak-kontak, kita banyak, kita lagi riset menggunakan animal sekarang nih. Soal
gitu,
menggunakan
Pak, di
sapi,
Unja.
tapi tidak ada pakai etika-etika.
Oh gitu. Di fakultas apa tuh Pak di Unjanya? Saya kemarin sebelum pandemi ke Unja ke fakultas kedokteran Pak untuk.
Oh ya, di ano ya. Oh jadi ano ya, jadi apa? Asesor ya.
Waktu itu jadi bukan sih mereka juga waktu itu di Fakultas Kedokteran di Unja menanyakan juga mengenai proses etik penggunaan hewan coba untuk di
kedokteran, bukan di kesehatan ternak ya, kesehatan hewan ya.
Bukan di
Oh
kedokteran.
iya. Bu Dokter Fitri sering ke Jambi lah. Ini kita lagi coba ini.
Ya mudah-mudahan.
Kita lagi bangun apa namanya lab-labnya yang kita belum pakai iCook itu belum ya. Mungkin perlu dibuat ini.
Ya dengan senang hati, dengan didukung pas itu. Kalau mau bangun komisi etik didukung pasti.
Ya, Prof. Subdi tadi pertanyaannya bagus itu. Mungkin kita buat satu gimana gitu sehingga publikasi kita tidak terhalang gara-gara sertifikat iCook-nya nggak ada gitu ya.
Iya, memang saran saya
mungkin sentralnya di IPB saja, tapi ada cabang-cabangnya di universitas gitu. Bisa jadi kan?
Agak susah sih pas itu beberapa negara yang bikin sistemnya seperti itu adalah kalau negaranya kecil ya kayak beberapa regio-regio di Eropa gitu mungkin dia bikinnya komisinya nasional gitu karena kecil negaranya. Tapi kalau negara kayak di Indonesia terus dibikin sentral agak sulit sih ya karena nanti untuk memastikan nanti kan jawab komisinya soalnya ya padahal dia perpanjangan tangan nyampe ke masing-masing unitnya kan agak susah. Jadi memang saat ini disarankannya institusional seperti itu.
Atau gini Bu Dr. Fitri mungkin Kemendikbud ya, jadi di bawah Kemendikbud satu, jadi ada di LPPM wakil-wakilnya gitu.
Gitu ya. Nanti coba saya dari organisasi apa yang bisa kita approach ke kementerian nanti mungkin. Saat ini masih lebih ke Kementerian Kesehatan sama Pertanian ya, tapi nanti coba kita cari solusinya sama-sama.
Iya. Urgent Bu, karena kita nak publikasi internasional nih Profesor Widi ini ya.
Gitu ya.
Makasih Dr. Bibit.
Siap.
Terima kasih banyak Pak Subdi. Prof.
Ya, terima kasih.
Ke Jambi lagi. Sekarang range-nya udah bagus tuh. Range-nya Dinas Peternakan udah bagus sekarang tuh.
Ya, tinggal tunggu undangan.
Siap. Oke semua, makasih banyak panitia. Pamit ya.
Terima kasih semua partisipan. Kami mohon izin untuk menutup kegiatan kita. Terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih.
Bu Sari, mungkin saya nitip kalau partisipan ada yang berminat nanya-nanya tadi mengenai hewan lab segala macam, mungkin bisa join di Perhimpunan Peneliti dan Pengguna Hewan Lab Indonesia. Tadi saya belum share screen juga.
Di-share ya.
Iya, boleh share.
Bisa Bu ya.
Ini mungkin ini saya share screen ya, sekarang kelihatan ya?
Iya.
Yang masih belum pergi, masih ada 100 orang kalau yang berminat. Sebetulnya ada dua organisasi, ada organisasi yang khusus dokter hewan, yang Asosiasi Dokter Hewan Praktisi Hewan Lab, tapi ada yang terbuka untuk umum, P3HLI, yang Bu Sari kita sama saya udah sering diskusi soal ini ya. Perhimpunan Peneliti dan Pengguna Hewan Lab Indonesia, ini kita di bawah AFLAS, Asian Federation for Lab Animal Science Association. Intinya sih kita sama-sama lah bangun penggunaan hewan coba, baik itu hewan coba tujuan agriculture ataupun tujuan biomedis, apapun itu kita coba perbaiki sama-sama demi publikasi yang lebih baik juga gitu.
Ya, setuju Bu. Jadi mudah-mudahan nanti lebih banyak yang lebih memperhatikan etik dalam penggunaan hewan coba maupun kegiatan penelitian menggunakan ternak untuk produksi ya.
Betul. Karena saat ini yang masih banyak concern-nya udah cukup tinggi kan yang memang biomedis ya, yang arahnya penelitian riset-riset untuk kesehatan manusia udah lebih mungkin karena lebih
advance
lebih familiar gitu ya lebih familiar dengan konsep komisi etik gitu. Tapi kalau yang teman-teman di agriculture sepertinya udah mulai concern juga gitu. Jadi sama-sama apapun background-nya, biomedis, agriculture gitu. Kalau kita menggunakan hewan dalam penelitian, kita coba bangun sama-sama standar yang lebih baik gitu ya.
Ya, mungkin kita memang lebih banyak juga harus mempromosikan atau menginformasikan keberadaan misalnya P3HLI ataupun komisi-komisi etik yang ada di institusi-institusi. Karena kalau seperti tadi
gitu ya Bu ya.
Iya, karena banyak sekali yang belum tahu bahwa ada aturan tersebut gitu. Padahal kita udah dari 2009 sudah ada, tapi artinya karena tidak ada yang mengawasi dan tidak ada komisi tersebut, maka penggunaannya sesuai dengan kebutuhan peneliti atau kegiatan lain. Iya, betul.
Termasuk juga pelatihan-pelatihan etik ya.
Ya, saya kira itu penting sekali. Jadi ya kita akan lakukan atau kita akan adakan kegiatan-kegiatan seperti ini lebih sering, artinya untuk menginformasikan ke lebih banyak pengguna institusi ini gitu. Jadi agar kedepannya ethical clearance ini adalah menjadi kebutuhan gitu.
Betul. Makanya saya apresiasi sekali Bu Sari di UNIP udah di bawah LPPM sudah ada yakuknya gitu ya, Komite Etik Hewannya. Mudah-mudahan teman-teman lain juga mencontoh gitu ya. Saya tahu Bu Sari bilang curhat bahwa masih baru mulai, sama Bu, mau udah di PSSP akreditasi dari 2000, akreditasi internasionalnya dari 2006. Tapi rasanya saya struggling terus sampai sekarang kok. Jadi itu never ending sih kalau untuk
di UNIP ini sebenarnya Dok kita udah punya 2 komisi etik ini Dok. Jadi sebenarnya satu udah ada KIPK, satu lagi komisi etik di bawah LPPM.
Oke.
Jadi kita saling support terkait dengan masalah daripada penelitian mana yang menggunakan KIPK dan juga menggunakan komisi etik LPPM.
Betul. Baik, bentuknya saya pikir nanti akan tergantung masing-masing institusi mana yang cocok ya, mana yang suitable, mana yang enggak. Seperti yang tadi di IPB aja 3 ya. Nanti tergantung setiap, yang pasti kan yang penting diatur itu setiap komisinya itu cakupannya yang mana gitu, supaya juga saling support. Kalaupun overlapnya saling dukung gitu, bukan kemudian jadi ada perbedaan antar yang ini bilang komisi gini, yang ini komisi kan jadi nggak lucu. Nah itu yang penting sinergisme antar komisi-komisi yang ada juga itu penting sekali saya rasa. Gitu.
Masing-masing ada perannya, saya kira. Kemudian kemudian tidak saling bersinggungan untuk merasa dilangkahi atau merasa diambil porsinya, misalnya demikian. Karena kita bisa tumbuh bersama dan untuk kepentingan yang sama, saya kira.
Setuju sekali Bu Sari. Jadi saya lihat juga di luar juga banyak yang seperti itu. Bentuknya akan tergantung masing-masing gitu. Jadi ada yang tadi di bawah LPPM, ada yang di bawah fakultas, ada yang di bawah pusat, ada yang di bawah seluruh universitas jadi satu gitu. Jadi memang tergantung kebutuhan, terus nanti tergantung kesanggupan komisinya juga. Kasihan kalau dibebankan untuk seluruh, tapi ternyata kesanggupannya tadi misalnya nge-reviewnya nggak akan mungkin bisa ketemu 2 mingguan atau sebulanan, terus usernya komplain nggak dapat review yang cepat. Nah, banyak tantangan yang mungkin nanti jadi setiap university bisa mumpung belum ada belum ada koridor yang strict-nya gitu, jadi bisa dimodif sesuai kepentingan sih mungkin ya, bukan kepentingan, kebutuhan.
Kebutuhan, betul. Ini kan juga saya lihat masih ada partisipan yang masih stay, artinya kita
kagum juga 88 orang nggak pergi, padahal kan kita ngobrol santai ya.
Iya, tadi saya nggak tahu terakhir berapa, tapi sempat 159 saya melirik handphone saya, tapi kemudian saya nggak tahu jadi berapa. Tapi anyway, saya berharap kegiatan hari ini itu memotivasi atau mungkin menginspirasi kawan-kawan di tempat lain, katakanlah di universitas ataupun banyak sekali ini dari Dirjen, dari LIPI yang ikut. Kalau di daftar yang sudah list
register
ya, yang register itu dari LIPI, dari BPPT, dari Dirjen Kesmafet, banyak sekali. Jadi menurut saya ini menjadi kebutuhan bersama, dan saya kemudian menceritakan bahwa sebagai contoh misalnya kami ini mulai dengan kemudian berusaha dari tidak tahu apa-apa, kemudian meminta bantuannya. Kemarin memang saya dibimbing Prof. Dondin dan Prof. Agi.
Guru saya.
Alhamdulillah ya sampai
Prof. Dondin ke sini ya.
Iya, betul. Kemarin. Dan Bu Dewi sebenarnya, Bu Fitri sebenarnya udah pernah ya Dok ya?
Iya, farmasi ya.
Pernah ke Bengkulu juga terkait etik. Jadi artinya it takes time, tapi alhamdulillah akhirnya ada gitu ya institusi ini, dan kami berusaha merapikan sistem kami dan juga kompetensi member di dalamnya, reviewer terutama gitu. Ya Dok, nanti kami akan undang lagi. Kemarin juga udah dapat tawaran bahwa bisa saja in-house training terkait pandemi ini, kan akan sulit sekali, tapi bisa in-house training itu juga adalah informasi yang sangat menggembirakan. Kami akan coba diskusikan dengan Bapak Kepala LPPM the possibility atau visibility ada latihan tersebut untuk kami untuk peningkatan kompetensi kami sebagai reviewer, dan karena mengeluarkan sertifikat etik itu punya tanggung jawab. Begitu kita
beban
sudah
moral,
lolos,
beban mental.
iya betul. Begitu kita sudah exempted bahwa itu oke gitu, artinya kita bertanggung jawab terhadap sertifikat yang kita keluarkan gitu. Jadi ya.
Betul.
A lot more to do lah ya.
Sama-sama kok Bu Sari, kita juga belajar terus. Makin saya dengar juga teman-teman seperti apa ininya challenge-nya masing-masing, kita juga di kami sendiri, di saya sebagai di Primata ataupun organisasi in general ya, perhimpunan tadi P3HLI ataupun ADHPHLI, belajar terus dan kita coba cari solusi sama-sama. Apa yang bisa berlaku buat nasional harapannya ya, kan kita misinya membangunnya se-Indonesia ya, gimana?
Bu Dokter,
Ya.
Bu Dokter, saya lagi coba isi aplikasi itu untuk registrasi untuk jadi anggota IAS itu ya. Apa
IALAS ya, ialas.id, betul.
Tapi dia mintanya referensi itu. Saya minta
tulis nama saya boleh Pak? Tulis nama saya.
Ya emailnya saya nggak tahu Dok.
Oh, di strip aja nggak apa-apa Pak.
Oh gitu ya?
Ya strip nggak apa-apa.
Oke, Fitria N.A. Dewi ya.
Ya siap, terima kasih Pak Saito.
Terima kasih banyak Bu Dewi.
Sama-sama Pak.
Ya. Saya kira pembicaraan kita sudah cukup banyak. Terima kasih atas yang masih bersabar.
Iya, saya juga kaget juga masih pada bersabar. Ini sebut apa, nunggu ditutup ruangannya mungkin ya. Padahal kita ngomong terus.
Karena pembicaraan kita masih menarik. Artinya mereka masih ingin mendengarkan, mendapatkan info. Saya yakin tanya penggiat.
Masih ada yang mau nanya kayaknya itu malah Bu Sari.
Nggak
ada
tahu
yang bertanya masih boleh nanya nggak ya gitu ya.
Boleh nggak ya?
Oh iya, mangga. Ini kalau dibolehin sama panitia sebelum.
Ya, silahkan.
Tapi sebetulnya udah close kan ya? Sebetulnya udah close ya acaranya kan ya?
Iya, Bu Dewi mau nanya nih. Silakan Bu Dewi.
Ya, makasih Bu Sari dan kesempatannya Ibu Fitria. Mohon maaf ini mungkin saya kurang mengikuti karena nggak enak juga ngomongnya ya, sambil kuliah juga nih tadi. Sambil mendengarkan, tetapi ini menarik. Nah, saya sekarang sedang penelitian yang objek saya itu adalah penyu, yang kita tahu bahwa itu adalah hewan yang sudah dilindungi. Jadi dari referensi yang saya baca itu mereka untuk membedahnya saja, hewan ujinya itu adalah penyu yang kita temukan mati, begitu ya Bu Fitri ya, yang kita temukan mati di pantai baik oleh yang terdampar maupun yang mati akibat terjerat alat tangkap nelayan. Nah, tetapi yang saya baca bahwa yang harus membedahnya itu mesti dokter hewan atau seperti apa? Apakah karena saya fokusnya di saluran pencernaan gitu, apakah boleh itu kita lakukan sendiri atau memang harus dengan didampingi oleh dokter hewan atau seperti apa? Seperti itu, Bu.
Oke. Ini berarti nih Bu Dewi, ini mungkin saya klarifikasi juga, bukan bedah ya, karena sebetulnya otopsi kan ya, hewannya udah mati kan ya, bukan bedah, jadi bukan membedah surgery gitu, bukan surgery pada hewan hidup kan, bukan kan? Jadi pada kadaver kan, pada bangkai ya, betul ya. Oke, jadi mungkin yang jelas sih kalau ini agak sensitif karena dalam konteks hewannya endangered ya, jadi hati-hati dalam artian jangan lupa legalitas dari studinya. Gitu, karena kalau kita mau publish field study pun, ini kan field study ya kategorinya, jadinya maksudnya di lapang kan ya, bukan hewan laboratorium di dalam arti sebenarnya di dalam fasilitas hewan coba gitu, tapi hewan yang di field study lah, observational study di lapang itu melihat juga legalitas, apalagi endangered species. Jadi pastikan bahwa ada izin dari BKSDA-nya, dari kedinasan setempat yang mengatur mengenai satwa liar kan ya, itu jatuhnya satwa liar atau satwa akuatik ya, pokoknya di kedinasan yang mengatur itu coba dikonsultasikan aspek legalitasnya bagaimana, nanti jangan sampai di jurnal juga ditanya itu legal atau enggak, endangered species loh soalnya. Kalau endangered species itu harus ada aspek legalitas. Jadi IAKUK-nya pun biasanya Komisi Etik Hewannya selain berpikir dari aspek animal welfare-nya juga mempertimbangkan legalitasnya. Gitu. Jadi ini izinnya harus keluar dari
harus ditambah ya Ibu ya, nggak cuma dari etiknya ya, tetapi juga dari ini ya, dari instansi yang
dinas kedinasan setempat atau pokoknya yang mengatur kewenangan legalitas mengenai apapun studi yang ada di spesies tersebut. Misalnya kalau kayak Taman Nasional kan berarti teman-teman BKSDA misalnya seperti itu. Jadi kementerian yang mengatur itu mungkin ya. Jadi jangan lupa bagian itu juga. Kalau perihal masalah harus ada dokter hewannya atau tidak, itu sih sebetulnya akan tergantung apa yang dilakukan gitu ya. biasanya kita menyarankan ada dokter hewannya juga untuk memastikan validitas dari datanya, karena jangan sampai kita sampling tapi secara kompetensi atau kualifikasi kita nggak tahu persis sebetulnya lokasi salurannya di mana, organnya seperti apa. Nah itu jadi biasanya kita sarankan melibatkan yang kompeten juga dalam hal ini yang mungkin bidang keminatan atau keilmuannya, profesinya sesuai, kan biasanya dokter hewan. Tapi harus dokter hewannya pun berarti yang mengerti penyu ya.
Iya,
Karena kan juga kalau dokter hewannya misalnya biasa sapi belum tentu tahu penyu. Saya tahunya monyet, mencit, tikus, kelinci gitu ya. Kalau misalnya penyu juga saya harus nanya ke kolega lain. Jadi biasanya itu kompetensi itu keywordnya kompetensi sama legalitas ya. Mungkin itu kali Bu Dewi ya. Jadi dipastikan supaya datanya juga valid.
Terima kasih banyak.
Ya, terima kasih banyak karena mengingat hari Jumat ini ada yang akan sholat Jumat.
Iya, mangga kita udahan ya.
Kita udahan. Terima kasih banyak Dokter Pipit. Kami ganggu lagi kapan-kapan. Semoga masih punya waktu buat Universitas Bengkulu.
Siap. Terima kasih Bu Sari, Bu Rizky, Bu Rizky.
Mbak Pipit sekali lagi nih Mbak Pipit.
Ya.
Ya. Dia minta email yang
ya. Saya reply nih Pak Saito di chat box.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Iya, saya juga belum berhasil kemarin itu daftar di IALAS dan akan segera.
Siap. Oke, kalau gitu saya pamit mungkin Bu biar audiensnya juga.
Iya, terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih Mbak Dewi.
Dokter Sandip masih ada nggak ya? Saya mau bilang ucapkan terima kasih lagi.
Yeah. Is Dr. Sandip here?
Out ya, karena sudah.
Oh sudah keluar, iya.
Terima kasih semuanya. Live ya.
Terima kasih Bapak Ibu semua. Terima kasih. Kami
Assalamualaikum
menutup.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih.